Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, and welcome back to Bible Book by Book, or Quadruple B, Episode 3. Unintentional rhyme was vaguely intentional. Sorry for a little bit of a delay. We had a little bit of a technical issue here trying to get the PDF to load, but I think we have everything resolved as of right now. Just gonna wait here for a little bit, just shoot the shit while people are slowly but surely gonna join in. We got quite an episode ahead of us here today, because typically we've been going like about 3 chapters at a time anymore with these episodes. Today we actually got Genesis 7 through 11, I believe. I believe we go all the way to 11. Might go all the way to 12. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that we go to 11 though. Still quite a bit to talk about, but at the same time, like, you know that there's some things that kind of need to be glossed over. Especially with these passages. You'll see why in just a little bit. Basically, there's quite a bit of genealogy that's just fucking integrated into this shit. And there's also quite a bit of repeating itself. So that'll be fun. I can't see anybody in the chat as of right now. Just say hello and let me know if the audio sounds okay. How big is Noah's shaft and what kind of wood is it made of? I don't think they ever. No, wait. Yes, they do. They do specify what wood the ark at least is made out of. The only reason I remember that is because I know it's not Lebanon cedar, which is very strange. It sounds like when you go through like the remainder of the Bible, especially when you get into like the building of Solomon's temple and stuff like that, there's a lot of commandments from God telling him, build that shit out of that good shit, that being Lebanon cedar, which is supposedly what they're known for. And that also has connections with Canaanite mythology and whatnot, and it all kind of just stems down. So it is kind of surprised. I was surprised that that's not what it was made out of. Honestly, I can't be bothered to remember what the fuck it was made out of. We might go back eventually just to kind of like fucking check up on that. But George says the audio sounds good. Just make sure that everybody else can hear me fine, and then we'll get started. Planning on streaming for about 2 hours here today. Just so that everybody knows. I know not everybody can stay for the entire duration, but I appreciate you nonetheless showing up for our little educational session here today. Which is sure as shit not sanctioned by any church that I know of. Oh, and you shut up. There we go. I always forget to mute the YouTube tab when I'm doing the stream. Also, I haven't had breakfast yet, so if you hear me chewing on BBBB cheeses, that's why. Alrighty, let's get things started in Ha. We're going to go ahead, present, share screen. There we go. All right, can everybody see this okay? Do I need to zoom in on this maybe? Just so I can maybe I should just zoom in on it just to make sure that no, that's fine text. Fuck. Just to make sure that like everybody can fucking read. Let's get rid of that and then let me check the StreamYard. Let me get rid of my face. Maybe that'll help too because that's taking up room. All right. I think we are ready to begin. So, Genesis chapter 7. When we last left off, the preparations for the flood were being made by Noah. Not everything really kind of came to a head just yet with like the rain and everything, but we're about to get into that. So, yay, genocide. It's fun, isn't it? It's what all the kids are into nowadays. No, they're not. Kids nowadays are a bunch of pussies. Anyway, Genesis chapter 7, verse 1. And Jehovah said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to these 7 and 7, the male and his female, and of the beasts that are not clean, 2, the male and his female. So, going laser focusing on 7:2 here for a second. This is yet another example of the Bible changing authors mid-chapter. The author of 6:1 and 6:8 is the older J author, whereas the author of 6:9 through 6:22 is known today as P. So the distinction between these guys was first written about in 1711 by some German minister named Herning Bernhard Witter. I think, or Henning Bernhard Witter, excuse me. Though his work really wasn't uncovered until 1924. So in 1753, the discrepancy was noticed again by a medical doctor, Jean Astruc. I think that's how you say his name. It's French, so, excuse me if it's fucky for me. Though his findings were never considered legitimate in his time since he wasn't considered a scholar. So, really, the first man to be recognized for noticing the differences in the authors in Genesis was someone by the name of Johann Gottfried Eichhorn, which was back in 1780. He drew the distinction from the fact that the Hebrew sources called God Yahweh in 6:1 through 6:8, and earlier in 2:4 through 2:25, whereas the secondary source, the one originally thought responsible for 1:1 through 2:3, as well as 6:9 through 6:22, called him Elohim. And thus, the two authors were immortalized by the names J for the German mistranslation as Yuha, and E for Elohim. However, these distinctions only lasted for about 18 years until the Bible came under even greater scrutiny in regards to its authors. As it turns out, there were two authors writing God's name as Elohim, the aforementioned E, and some other schmuck who was really, really into describing stories of the priestly class, dates, measurements, and the law, albeit with wildly different uses of language, style, and really just interests. Because of this anal retentiveness to primarily the priestly class, this author is called P nowadays, and is the reason why the Bible spells out the measurements of time in the creation story, the dimensions of the ark that we just went over, and whatnot, everything else, pretty much. You're going to see quite a lot of that, especially when we get into like some of the more genealogical passages. P is thought to be responsible for recording all of those measurements. So, like when it says like Adam, or excuse me, like the one I know off the top of my head is Noah was 500 years old when the world was flooded. Uh, and then you get like all those other dates with like ridiculously long lifespans. That is all attributed to P. Um, just so you all know that. What we do know about these three authors is that P is almost certainly a later source than J or E, as he copies a lot of these stories just with more flushed out and technical aspects. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. The Pentateuch is also thought to have an even older author who penned Deuteronomy, which is thought to be the oldest book of the Bible, though this book was thought to have had only two authors, respectively, known as D1 and D2. Very creative, I know. And if you actually do look at a Bible reference book, actually, you know what? I have one right here, which has actually been invaluable in my research, particularly on this topic. Let me get up the webcam here, even though I'm sure it's going to look like shit. Oh, and I need to present myself. Duh. There we go. So if anybody wants to look a little bit further into this, I recommend. Jesus fucking Christ, that is terrible. There we go. Who Wrote the Bible by Richard Elliott Friedman. Particularly this one section here, at least in my copy, it's on page 229. It has an appendix listing, Jesus Christ, at least the authors of the Pentateuch and which sections they go over. With regards to how they kind of divvied up all the different stories of the Bible. So I know some of you said, like, last time we did a Bible book by book, it's like, oh, hey, that book on like Canaanite mythology is really cool. What's the name of it? So that you can find it for yourselves. This is just basically me sharing some of my sources with you guys. A, so you know that I'm not bullshitting you, and B, so that you can possibly do some of the reading for yourself, if that is something that interests you. Do I need to zoom in a little bit? Hold on. There is a way to present this without all this crap. And I am not sure how to do it. This is why we need OBS, or at least OBS to work. However, my internet is absolute fucking dog shit. So that's probably quite a ways off until we get OBS up and running. But when we do, trust me, this whole stream will look a lot better. And hopefully it'll be a little bit more organized. Hopefully. So going back to 7.2 for just a second, I'm not going to stop the whole narrative every time one of these books changes authors, since that's obnoxious as shit. And unless there's like a really, really big discrepancy, like there is right here, 7 pairs for the clean animals, only like 1 pair for the unclean animals, which fits in with the narrative from Genesis chapter 6 that we read last time. Stuff like that, I'll point it out if I can find a authored source for it. But as of right now, I just kind of wanted to get that information out into the ether so that everybody can extrapolate from it what may come. Okay. So, 7:3. And the birds also of the heavens, 7 and 7, male and female, to keep seed alive upon the face of the earth. For yet 7 days I will cause it to rain upon the earth, 40 days and 40 nights. And every living thing that I have made I will destroy from the face of the ground. So, the thing about 7 days and 40 nights is really an old Jewish expression, which just means a really long measurement of time rather than, literally a month and a half. It rained supposedly for like 40 days and 40 nights. Moses spent 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Sinai. Goliath taunts the Israelites for 40 days and 40 nights. By the way, I'm really looking forward to Samuel 1 and to a lesser extent Samuel 2. I just think that they're both really fascinating when you view them in a certain context, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Even in the New Testament, Jesus wanders the desert with Satan pestering him for about 40 days and 40 nights. Then, after he returns, guess how long he spends on earth before ascending back to heaven? Modern Christians will actually argue that this is supposed to be more literal and that the time period between Lent and Easter is 40 days, primarily based on the suspicion around that number. And to that I say, Sunday isn't the Sabbath either. Jesus was not born on the 25th of December. You just stole those ideas from Mithra. I honestly do think that, honoring traditions is important in a certain context, but just understand, like Lilith and the Red Sea being parted or whatever, all of that is based off of a mistranslation. And I feel like more people should acknowledge that sort of thing in the Bible, because the Bible is just fucking wrought with mistranslations. And if you actually bother to sit down and read it, you're gonna end up being confused by quite a few things. So you can either look into it for yourself a little bit more, or just stay tuned for this show, because Lord knows I am pedantic enough to actually go over every single little detail. Let me scroll down here just a little bit. Okay. Genesis 7:5. And Noah did according unto all that Jehovah commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. Basically, I only really noted this one because in accordance with 532, which were both written by R, which essentially just means that they're retconned editors throughout the course of the Bible, possibly the same person. The ark took about 100 years to complete, and now the world is at 1556 years old. So that's the date that we're at right now, 1556. I like to say AC, after creation, but I'm sure somebody has actually gone back and done the math, and can point to a specific date in BC. I just have not really looked that far into it. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives were with him, into the ark, because of the waters of the flood. So, a little bit of a fun fact here about Genesis 7:7. So, the Ark Encounter theme park, that fucking abomination in Kentucky that has goddamn dinosaurs on the ark, was opened on July 7th, 2016. And that date was specifically chosen to coincide with this passage being 7-7. Uh, Now, the thing about the Ark encounter was I couldn't find precise dates on like when it was actually finished. Of course, that was the opening day, but obviously they would have had to have had everything, all the wiring and the cafes and shit already set up. And as far back as I can tell, they were they started clearing the forest around where the site is actually supposed to be in like late 2012. So say like it took them about 3.5 years. Another thing that I was not able to find was exactly how many people realistically worked on this. What I was trying to do was do a little bit of reverse engineering math and, say like 1,500 people actually worked on the Ark Encounter attraction, whereas supposedly the original Ark was built by one guy. If it took the one guy 100 years to do it, and it took like 1,500 people like only like 3.5 years, maybe then you could like figure out, what exactly was the time frame and whether or not that was really realistic. You know, I know if I tried to build a big ass boat and I had 100 years to do it, I probably would fall short on that number, to be honest with you. Um, because I'm not very good at building boats. Actually, I have zero experience in building boats. And B, uh, it takes me like a fucking month to get out a goddamn video on this channel. So even with editors. So keep that in mind. Anyway, going on to 7-8. Let me scroll down just a little bit here, just so that we got that at the top of the screen here. Very good. Of clean beasts and of beasts there that are not clean, and of birds and of everything that creepeth upon the ground. There went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. That's the repeat of the whole. Now everything's back to being in pairs, as opposed to the clean animals having 7 whole pairs as before. Like I said, changes in authors will lead to discrepancies like that. 7:10. And it came to pass after the 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. And in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month, on the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. So remember, at this time, the firmament was still a generally accepted idea as to why the sky was blue and how you were actually able to get enough water to submerge the entirety of the earth. Now, I would like to state for the record, it is actually impossible to submerge the entirety of the earth in water. Even if you wrung out all the clouds, melted all the polar ice caps, and hell, even drained all the known groundwater wells, you'd still be short by a lot. Now, granted, this is likely a revised version of a much older Sumerian story where the same thing happened, only the scope of the Earth was a lot smaller back then. If you want to get more details on that, we have already done a video on this channel. I think we mentioned it last time. I'll remember to link it in the pinned comment after the stream is over. Maybe. So moving on We are now at Genesis 7:12, and we need to kind of definitely, it's a little bit awkward here because there is a page break. Let me just read that real quick and then we'll move on. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. There's that old Jewish adage again. So I don't really have too many notes for the next couple of passages here, just simply because there's not terribly much to go over. This is arguably the most famous biblical story of all time. So most of you should already know the broad details of it. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his son were with them into the ark. They and every beast after its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh wherein is the breath of life. And they went in male and female, all of all flesh, as God commanded them, and Jehovah shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lifted upon the earth. And the waters prevailed and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. And all the high mountains that were under the whole heaven were covered. Pause right here. So, I just want to point out that the passages do explicitly say that the entire earth was covered. Just in case somebody wants to come along and say, well, who said that the entire earth was covered? It says right here, okay? That's who says. Your God is who says. Checkmate, theists. But we have a bit of a math problem here. So 719 obviously ends with, and the high mountains that were under the whole heaven were covered. There's a bit of a problem with that, because when you move down to 720, there we go. There we go. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. Again, repetition is just a hallmark of this book. Get used to it. But it does specifically say that the mountains were covered with a mere 15 cubits of water. Doing the math on this, that would imply that all of the mountains, the highest mountains on Earth, were no taller than 26 feet. Either that, or we just need to completely redefine what a cubit is here, in which case Noah's Ark got a hell of a lot bigger. Actually, Noah's Ark is supposedly even taller than the tallest mountain, just going by the measurements given here. So I don't know who the fuck approved the number 15 cubits upward, but that is just way off, way too little. And again, we have a little bit of a break here up until we get to like Genesis 8. I'll just read off the rest of Genesis 7 real quick. And then, oh, fuck. I totally forgot to put on the ticker for Genesis 7. Funny line. Anyway, going back to it. Genesis 7:21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both birds and cattle and beasts, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, and whose nostrils was the breath and the spirit of life, of all that was on dry land died. And every living thing was destroyed that was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and creeping things and birds of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth, and blah blah blah. Noah was left, and they that were with him on the ark, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So roughly, what is that, like 4 months, basically. That gets contradicted in Genesis 8, but whatever. We're not going to be that. Whoa, we're not going to be that anal retentive with how long the Earth was supposedly flooded for, because the wording A is really confusing, and B, they just give two wildly different numbers for that, as we'll soon see. Anyway, let me hop in here really quick, and we'll go ahead and catch up with the chat really quick. Yes, condescendingly reading the Bible, my favorite. I don't think I'm that condescending. At least I don't think I'm as bad as the Bible Reloaded. I think I mentioned I watched that shit a little while ago, just to like, rewatched it, of course, just to like kind of get a scope of like what my quote unquote competition is. Jesus fucking Christ, they are vitriolic as shit. And they say like ridiculous shit like science plus, like fucking hell, god damn. It really is like that sort of like superior sort of like 2013 Reddit atheists attitude before they got completely and utterly humbled. It was that one statement somebody made on Reddit. It was like, I am an atheist and therefore I am intelligent, or some fucking stupid shit like that. It was actually fucking ridiculous. If I can find the actual quote, I'll present it next time. It is actually fucking hilarious. Hello, Sir Adamantine. This time I actually was able to see you this time. Like I said, everybody, I am basically looking at like 3 different screens throughout the entirety of these streams. So if I don't necessarily see you or your comment immediately, that's usually why. I'm just more or less focused on trying to get through the material that we have in front of us. If I could live for 600 years, I would probably name my son something normal. I wouldn't. I would give him like the most fucking weird names imaginable. It just, well, because like if you live to be like 600 years old, odds are you're probably gonna have like at least 150 kids. You're gonna run out of Liam and Owens eventually, so might as well name at least one of your kids Methodius. At least that's my philosophy. Alrighty, so since we're kind of caught up on that, let us move on to Genesis 8, which, yeah, you guys are not ready for this one. This something happens in this one. They do not tell you about it in Sunday school, and it is really fucked up. But we'll get to that. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, Genesis chapter 8. And God remembered Noah. Remembered implies he straight up forgot about him for the past 150 days or so, which is funny as fuck to me. And all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. Where the fuck did they go? I don't know. They were just kind of blown away with wind. Then again, they're only about 26 feet tall, so I don't know. Maybe oceans just didn't fucking exist up until this point. And there you go. Now you get oceans. Well done. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of 150 days, the waters decreased. Excuse me. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. Excuse me. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. What? So you got a bit of a contradiction here. Apparently, the waters continued to recess for 150 days, but then it takes 10 months until we get the tips of the mountains to fucking show up again. All this done with a absolutely piddly amount of water in comparison to what you would actually need to flood the entirety of the earth. Let's not dwell on that too much longer. Let's just look at this. Oh, the timetable gets so fucked up from here. Thankfully, as we go down a little bit, it gets cleaned up slightly. We will still be keeping up to date with the date of the Earth as per P. Thank you, P. However, I think it's by the end of this chapter or the next one. I'll note a discrepancy in terms of the aging of the Earth, which kind of means that you can give or take about 100 years or so. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. There we go. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he hath made, and sent forth a raven, and it went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. And he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him to the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. And he put forth his hand and took her and brought her into fuck this reading, and brought her unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came in fucking hell. Excuse me. And the dove came into him at evertide, and lo, in her mouth an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from the earth. Now, I'm pretty sure that if you flood the earth for about 150 days straight, on top of the quote unquote 40 days and 40 nights it took for the rainwaters to eventually cover the entirety of the earth, and then also add on the 10 months or so, supposedly, that it took them to at least see the mountaintops, there would not be any plant life left on earth. which of course is a problem for creating oxygen in the atmosphere. But again, that's neither here nor there. We're not going to really touch up on that. All I'm saying is that leaf would have had to have grown back exceedingly fast if that were the case. And we have reached yet another dry spell of notes because this is all very generic shit. So let's just kind of speed through it. And he stayed yet another 7 days and sent forth the dove, and she returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dried. And in the second month, on the 2 and 20th day of the month, was the earth dry. Like completely dry? Or whoa, what the hey, what the fuck? God damn it, I hate this fucking thing. Excuse me really quick while I get back to my place. Like, yeah, like this line kind of implies that the entirety of the earth was dry, because in the previous passage, 8:13, they said that the ground was dried, but now I guess everything is dry? I don't know. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth from the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both birds and cattle, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. Bow, chicka, wow, wow, chicka, wow, wow. I'm sorry, I just picture like fucking earthworms doing it and shit. That's actually not very sexual. And Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives were with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, every bird whatsoever moveth upon the earth, and their families went forth out of the ark. Yada, yada, yada. All right. So now we're getting into the very interesting things. With only 3 passages left in the Bible, how are they going to make this entire narrative fucky as shit? Well, Genesis 8:20, which is probably a passage most of you have never heard of before, and for good reason. And Noah builded an altar unto Jehovah, and took of every clean beast, of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. So, a lot of people either seem to forget that this line is in the Bible, or it's otherwise glossed over by your Sunday school teacher, because what the actual fuck, Noah? Even if we ignore it saying every clean beast was sacrificed as a burnt offering, and only some of them were, this is appropriately how this is, there you go. That's your explanation as to how the dinosaurs died out. They were all sacrificed to God. Noah just killed everything. Even if you do kind of reduce the number of animals that are sacrificed, this is still incredibly fucked up that God would have them all be saved from the flood, all for them to survive all this time and get ashore. Land's dried, things are going great, and then all of a sudden he's like, nope, sorry, actually some of you have to die. This is exactly the equivalent of a school shooting being stopped by a police officer. Like they go in, they pop a cap in the guy, just as he's about to burst into like a kindergarten classroom, and the teacher's like, "Oh, thank you so much for saving all of us. Uh, Here, as a token of gratitude, the kids are still lined up against the wall. Why don't you take a pot shot at like two or three of them? Just, just so we're even." This is so fucked. This is actually fucked up morality. Um, one of the most abundant examples I can cite from the Bible, even more so than just like the whole flood narrative as a whole, because at least with that, there's justification for it. There's fucking Nephilim running around on the earth. They're causing trouble. Apparently, everybody is wicked and just a terrible fucking person, with exception to Noah. So you know what? At least we have the foresight to spare this guy and his family, and a couple of the animals, which again, good foresight. You need to have animals there to breed. But then it just turns around and is like, on second thought, like I know animals don't have the same comprehension as humans do with regard to like morality and stuff like that. That's why dogs can't commit suicide, because they have no concept of life or death. But just imagine if the animals could think. I would personally feel incredibly betrayed if that happened to me. And we're going to get into Genesis 9 here. And there's another very interesting passage in there. It's not so much interesting in the message, it's more interesting in the wording and context placement of it. But again, we'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's finish off Genesis 8 here real quick. And Jehovah smelled the sweet savor, and Jehovah said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. So basically, God is basically spelling out for you that Hobbes' Leviathan is a very accurate way to look at the morality of humanity, and John Locke can go suck a dick, and the entire Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution should have never happened, because apparently we're all pieces of shit. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So that's not literally saying that we have eternal days and nights until everything grows back. It's just like God saying, like, yeah, I'm not going to destroy the earth again. If wait until the end of the New Testament, and we'll get back to that one. But curiously, there is no mention of the rainbow in this version. Once we get into Genesis, and my God, I was not fucking hell. Pick up again with Genesis 9 here. Let me just quickly look into the chat really quick. If any of you have any questions, what we've covered thus far. I normally ask everybody to like refrain, but we still have like 3 more chapters to go. So this is a bit of a longer episode. I'm kind of making up for lost time with this one. So if anybody has anything that they want to, pose to me before we proceed, now would be the time to do it. So let me go ahead and look at what we have here in the comments. Durish says, if I could live for 600 years, I would sire a bunch of Asian children to form a commercial empire, maybe a basketball team as well. Small problem with that, Turish, they're probably not going to be tall enough to compete. But yeah, no, that's a pretty good idea. Then again, Turish does love siring his half Asians. All right. Sifa. I apologize if that's not how your name is supposed to be pronounced, but when God remembering Noah only 4 months later is explained by the fact that God was already dealing with almost 100 problems and was sulking. What other problems? He literally got rid of every other problem. There's no reason for him to forget about Noah. Everything else is dead. He killed it. Because space doesn't exist at this time. So you can't say like, oh, God had all these other problems going around. It's like, no. The Earth is his little petri dish, specifically hyper focused around the Mediterranean. But yeah, no. Came onto someone is a phrase used so often in context of bonking, it triggers me. Well, you know what? If your headcanon is that they were so happy to get on board the Ark that they just immediately started dry humping it, I'm not going to stop you. Tara says, you make enough kids, you'll eventually get a Yao Ming or two. Yeah, I mean, if you live for 600 years, that's probably. Okay. I'm gonna actually, for the first time since we started here, sip a little bit of tea to moisturize my throat pipes. There we go. And hopefully my voice does not give out as we start to go over the remaining 3 chapters that we have for today. All right, so Genesis 9 contains quite possibly probably my second favorite Genesis story. My first one is quite a bit of a ways off, but trust me, we'll definitely get there. This one still is fucking hilarious to me. So let me go ahead here. Oh, hold on. There we go. All right, excellent. We're good. All right. So picking up again here with Genesis 9. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Exactly what they just got done saying. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, with all wherewith the ground teemeth, and all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand they delivered. Basically, moral justification for hunting and the absolute train wreck, which was a flaming pyre of the survivors of the flood, being retroactively justified here. Moving on. Try not to scroll too far here. Um, yeah, that's good. Every moving thing that liveth shall be food for you. As the green herb I given to fucking hell. As the green herb have I given you all. And the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. All right, so everything's good so far. Basically, it's just like God's like, hey, you can eat animals now. I guess everybody was vegan beforehand, but whatever. Um, 9.4 basically is like, but wait a minute, don't be eating any humans now. And then all of a sudden, we get into a completely different moral conundrum. The entire thing takes a left turn, a hard left turn in Genesis 9:5. And surely your blood, the blood of your lives, will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it. At the hand of man, even at the hand of every man's brother, will I require the life of man. Now, I am not a very smart man, nor was I very well educated on the Bible prior to starting this series. This sounds an awful lot to me, especially when you read it with the context of everything that came before. Like God is demanding human sacrifices in order to appease him. Now, granted, this is a false alarm. Just look ahead to 9:6. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. So, for some reason, God just he's laying out the rules of, you can kill animals, you can eat them, that's fine now. Also, immediately after that, in like the same breath, he's like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, remember way back in like Genesis 4 somewhere in there, when I said don't kill Cain because, revenge is bad." Well, you know what? Now I've decided, since that there's only 8 people on the face of the planet now anymore, capital punishment is cool. You can totally kill people for committing crimes. Um, this is a passage I could definitely see being taken out of context, as apologists so like to do, especially when it comes to the Old Testament mentions of Satan and Jesus. This could very well be used to justify some sort of cult centered practice for human sacrifice. Now, thankfully, I haven't been able to find any such cases online yet, but if it does actually exist, it would not surprise me, especially since, first time I read this, I was just like, "Wait, excuse me." I had to like go and look for like some clarification on this, because it is very awkwardly worded. It is. It is, especially that middle part. At the hand of every beast will I require it. What? Like I understand animal sacrifices definitely did exist. Prior to and following um the era of Jesus, but like just mentioning all of that in accordance with you're going to have to kill other human beings, it's very odd. What it's supposed to say is that if an animal kills a human, then that animal should be put down. But again, I don't really glean that from this. Maybe I'm just retarded. I don't know, but this passage is quite fucky. Moving on. We already read 9:6, so we'll just skip ahead to 9:7. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. And with, let's scroll down here a little bit. And with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you, of all that go out of the ark, even every beast on the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there be any more, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. Continuing on, that one's pretty self-explanatory. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, not every time, but whatever. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. Whoa, too far. Let's get down to 16, 17. You'll notice that my patience is waning for this section of the Bible. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. Holy fuck. So I have to get out a quick aside here. And this isn't just about biblical writing, but something I've noticed about old Canaan writing as a whole is that they are horribly repetitive. All that had to be said from like 9:8 to 9:17 is, and I wrote this myself, and behold, I shall set my bow upon the clouds as a reminder of my covenant to you, that I shall never again utilize the floodwaters to destroy all flesh. That's it. That's all you had to fucking say. You didn't have to mention the animals again. You didn't have to mention the sons again. You didn't have to say it in so many words that, like, oops, I guess floods aren't cool. Everything could have been shortened down to that one single paragraph that I wrote at 3 a.m. while I was half passed out from being drunk off my ass. Speaking of which, Brost. Oh, God. Yeah, eventually we are actually going to do a series of videos on like the Canaan myths, doing the book that I showed off last stream. That, trust me, I will be equally as frustrated reading that as I have been reading this. And guess what? Things only get worse from here. Because after this one small little section, we get more genealogy. However, as a bonus, this next little section, these next few passages, are the aforementioned favorite part of Genesis up to this point, that I mentioned beforehand. So I'm very excited about this. And the sons of Noah that went forth from the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. Have to specifically point that out because my God, they do not like the Canaanites at this point in their history. These three were the sons of Noah, and of these was the whole earth overspread. And Noah began to be a husbandman and planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, again, don't want to forget that, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both of their shoulders and went backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. Just. This is really petty. Like, Ham comes out and he's like, "Oh shit! I just saw the tube that we all swam out of." And Shem and Japheth are like, "Oh really?" So they take these sheets and they walk back in the tent for no apparent reason, all so that they can just say, "Ha ha! Ham looked at Dad's wiener, but we won't because we're not gay." Ha ha! And meanwhile, you have to imagine Noah's just nursing the hangover of his life. He probably he's not even sober enough to fucking acknowledge the fact that his sons are in his tent while he's stark ass naked for no apparent reason. uh, but wait, there's more. Genesis 9:24. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done unto him. So what exactly did Ham do to Noah? Because, just accidentally looking at his junk isn't really something which is worth punishment over. Like I'm sure that at some point in our lives, all of us have mistakenly walked into the bathroom and, saw one of our parents naked and was like, "Oh shit," and you just close the door. No harm, no foul. But what his youngest son had done unto him. Now, some people have taken this line to mean that Ham had purposefully molested his father in a state of weakness, which, yeah, is pretty fucked up, but it's definitely not a cause for the punishment which befalls him next. Genesis 9:25. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." And he said, "Blessed be Jehovah, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servants. God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servants." Now, 9:27 specifically kind of has some dark implications throughout history. This is one of those really fucked up passages of the Bible, which was used by southern states as an argument as to why sub-Saharan Africans were actually meant to be slaves. That they were divinely interred to be that way for the white man, and very specific semantic peoples too, not the Canaanites. Gloss over that, really. No, nobody really pays any attention to that. But the problem that I have with this is that there's really no two ways to interpret this, especially when you look at, like, a little bit later on how the lands were kind of divvied up between the sons of Noah. There's no way to misconstrue things here. The descendants of Ham, so to speak, are prime real estate for human property. Now, I realize that the church has undergone numerous social changes, especially in the last century or so, but even still, this is meant to be the tenet of your religion. You know, this is spelled out for you in your holy book. It's shit like this, which is part of the reason why I personally just can't jive with, not just this religion, but any religion really. Is you just get shit like this, and it's I make a lot of jokes, you know. I've been known to be quite naughty, and say that there really is no line to cross when it comes to humor. Everything is fair game, but that's just it. That's humor. Personally, I think that slavery is wrong. Big shocker, Jesus Christ. He has a small tinge of morality within himself. Um, but just to see this coming from a religion which preaches, love and acceptance and forgiveness and shit like that, along with some other things that we're going to get into, especially when we get into Deuteronomy. Oh my God. It's hypocritical in a single word to sum things up. It's very hypocritical. And I'm kind of torn on this. I realize this is a very long aside, but I just kind of want to get things out there. I'm kind of torn between my thinking on adherence to religious dogma, because I can respect somebody who says that they are a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or what have you, and they actually do live their lives accordingly to what is written in Scripture. They don't wear two different materials of clothes. They don't grow more than one vegetable in their garden. And yes, even if they are, what what's the word I'm looking for? Prejudice against, like, peoples of differing races or sexual orientations. In a way, I find that kind of commendable, that you're ride or die for your religion, which, hey, at the very least, I can't call you a hypocrite. You know, at the same time, though, your moral code is fucked up. um, so in a way, though, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the reformist church that has come out in, like, the past 20 years or so, in my opinion, the one that holds, like, gay weddings, the one that has, female ministers, or, encourages trans rights and stuff like that. That's all well and good, but I don't consider them to be real Christians. because like they're transparently going against their own doctrine in order to pursue what can charitably be seen as attendance numbers. The whole reason that they're doing this is to pander to younger people so that they can get butts in the pews and subsequently maybe some donations. That's the whole thing. That's what it is. That's how I see it. It may be very cynical of me to say that that's the way things are, but that's just how I view it. And I mean, like I said, I encourage any sort of debate within my channel. So if anybody really wants to have at it with me on that, we do have a debate server in the Discord. Discord should be linked down below in the description. If anybody really wants to come at me for saying that, go right ahead. But like this is just something that I've considered over time. Anyway, we are now 2 passages away from being at the end of 9, so let's just fucking hammer these out. And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and then he died. Wah, wah. So just so that we're all on the same page here, by the time of Noah's death, we are now up to 1956 AC. I will not be able to keep up the dating of the Earth beyond this point, since Genesis 10 is yet another genealogy chapter, and since it wasn't written by P, there really isn't any quantifiable dates for the descendants of Shem, Japheth, and Ham. So it really is just kind of a rough guess from here on out. The big issue here, though, this does kind of get rectified a little bit in 11, so I guess that's not totally true. The big issue, though, is we don't know exactly how old Noah was when he had Japheth, who is supposedly the oldest child. I did try to look this up. Basically, they said, well, Noah was 500 years old when he had Japheth, and he was 501 when he had Shem. And it's like, no. The Bible says that's when he started building the ark. It didn't say anything about when he had his kids. So, like I said, you could, from here on out, add about 100 years or so from like the time span and the dates that we're going to go over here, but it is very complicated to try and date these things. So anyway, we are up to Genesis 10. Let me go ahead here and stop sharing real quick, just so that I can go ahead and take a look at the chat. Thank you guys, by the way, for sticking with the stream for so long. I know that this one is, well, I mean, we're only a little over an hour as of right now. We're going to absolutely speed run through Genesis 10. Trust me, it's a genealogy chapter. But I do appreciate you guys sticking with me on this one. I read that whole blood requiring part as, if you shed blood, yours will be shed, and animals may hunt you now, so check yourself. I mean, I guess. I don't know though. Like, does an animal like need moral justification to hunt you down. Like, like a bull could like break out of the fucking pen and just be like, "You killed your wife," and just starts chasing you down until he fucking gores you. I don't really think so. I think it's more so like wild animals are just that, wild animals, and they will kill you without any rhyme or reason for the most part. Okay, not too many comments to go over. Which is fine. It's just hopefully you guys will have some questions that you will post here towards the end of the stream, just so that we can go over things. But yeah, very quickly here, let me just get some tea. Oh wait, shit, I forgot. This is actually the chapter where I have to pull up maps. Oh shit, I totally forgot about that. Let me go ahead and get those up real quick. Yes, we will actually have visual aids for this one. Get that called up. There we go. Okay, maybe not. No, don't do that. Don't do that. There we go. We got that one, and then we also have, what did I name this one? Apologies, I definitely should have had this ready to go before we started streaming. Okay, and we got both of those up. Okay. All right, I think we are good. Let me go ahead here. Jump back into StreamYard. Get that shared up. Okay, my ugly face is off, so cool. Oh, Aaron Kelly, missed the premiere, watching from the gym now. Well, we're still live. These episodes do tend to go on for quite a while, so we only have about 2 more chapters to go through, and this one should be fairly short. All right, Genesis 10:1. I do not have a note until 10:5, so we are good for right now. Now these are the generations of the son of Noah, namely of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Yavin, and Tubal, and Met. That's not a white person name. And Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmath. And the sons of Javin, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Those must be his Asian descendants, because those are in no way in hell fucking Western European names. Of these were the isles of the nations, divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families, and in their nations. Interestingly, Ham and Shem's descendants are placed in very strategic parts of the earth, and their borders are explicitly implied in the Bible. However, Japheth is kind of left ambiguous. assumedly so that any newfound lands and peoples could be directly attributed to him, which is kind of backfired since the guy is supposedly the progenitor of the Celts, at least the continental Celts, the Teutons, the Northmen, the Slavs, the Chinese, Japanese, assumedly the Jomon people, pretty much all the Mongoloids, including the native North and South Americans, the Turks, maybe, and the Aboriginals, and all of the Maori peoples. So, dude was pretty fucking busy. uh, I imagine, you know, if this was written like 200 or 300 years later, they probably would be a little more conservative with descendants of, you know, well, actually no, they wouldn't be, because America still wouldn't have been discovered yet. Never mind. Completely ignore everything that I just said. Oh yeah, also the Indians too. Yeah, the Indian subcontinent. That's all Japheth too. Jesus Christ, man. Dude was coming 24/7. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizram and Put and Canaan, of course. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah and Sabta and Rama and Sabteka, the sons of Rama, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush beget Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth, and he was a mighty hunter before Jehovah. Wherefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before Jehovah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calnech in the land of Shinar. I just kind of want to point this one out for prosperity's sake, because when we get into Genesis 11, it doesn't specifically name who the ruler of the land surrounding the Tower of Babel is. It is Nimrod, and it is, you know, it's not even like conjecture or anything like that. It is expressly pointed out here in Genesis 10. So they kind of sort of cover their ass with that one. But, you know, if you were wondering, you know, when we get into Genesis 11, well, why is Nimrod said to be the ruler? Well, this is why. All right, 10:11. Get up. No, not that far. Out of the land he went forth into Assyria, and builded Nineveh, and Rehoboth, Ir, and Kalal. And Rezin between Nineveh and Kalal, the same is the great city. And Mizram beget Ludum and Anamim, and Lehabim and Naptuhim, and Pathrusium and Casluhim went forth the Philistines. They're important later too. And Captorim. Oh my god, these names are impossible. And you see, the thing is, if this is a scripted video, I probably would look into how to pronounce them. But this is a live stream, and these fuckers never get mentioned again, ever. So that's why I'm kind of struggling a little bit with the pronunciation. You'll have to excuse me on that one. Let's scroll down here a little bit. Whoa, not that far. And Canaan begets Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of Canaan was from Sidon, as thou goest toward Gerar, unto Gaza, as thou goest toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah, and Zeboim, unto Lasha. I almost read lasagna there. So, a lot of you don't exactly know where these places are, and that's fine. Neither did I. If you look at it, somebody actually has figured this shit out. Let me go ahead here and present the map that I found on this. Look at that fucking border. it is so pedantically drawn. Like, okay, Ham gets basically this entire section of Africa, and this does, eventually spread out over the entire continent, which is fine. But then they also give him this very small section of the Arabian Peninsula, and then he's got this one stretch of land that just fucking sticks up like a middle finger straight through the Holy Land. And those are the Canaanites. And you better fucking remember that those are the Canaanites, because we don't like those people. They are different from us. Those are fucking subhumans. What are you what do you want about? The Canaanites are awful. There's no way at all that they can be good, God-fearing, semantic peoples like us, even though genetically they are almost identical to us, and we borrowed their storm god as our monotheistic god. But let's completely ignore that. Like, you guys understand what I'm getting at. Like, zooming in here, like, just how absurd it is that, you got the Levant here, and then you just kind of have things just really spread out here. And then also for your convenience, right over here in Babylon, by Shinar, where Shinar is denoted, this is also Ham's descendants. We don't want anything to do with them. And the Hamites, or the Hamathites, nah, screw them too. No, we want nothing to do with these guys. Absolutely nothing. Oh my god. It's great. It's great. I love reading the Bible. Not for the reasons that other people love it, but just so that we can find ridiculous shit like that. Yeah, and then the rest of Genesis 10 is pretty bare bones and barren, quite frankly. There's really nothing else to go into here from 10, 20. all the way up until, like 1032. If we can go back to that. Honestly, I don't care enough to read the next 12 passages because it's all going to be a mouthful. It's all going over the descendants of Shem. I'm just going to skip straight to 1032 because it basically summarizes everything that you need to know. Which is that the as we already saw with the map beforehand, that's how the sons of Noah had divided up their land. However, since I have you all here, I'd like to quickly share this map made up by one of my Discord members, actually. And it details all of the different lands that were known as of the time of the Bible, explicitly known, mentioned, and even goes through the bother of denoting whether or not it's Old or New Testament, and then you just have America here, which is just the Book of Mormon. We are going to completely ignore that. So we're going to kind of zoom in here. Well, maybe not so much, just so that we know the key here. So basically, what you see here is the brown regions are like areas which were at one point or another under the control of the Hebrews. And then all this orange area right here in the south of the Mediterranean are lands in which get mentioned at some point in the Bible. It's not 100% comprehensive to my knowledge, but it is pretty close. And like at the time of Genesis's composition, they knew about things like Hispania, Francia, all of these regions right down in here, like Ethiopia, Nubia, all the way westward. This would be Carthage right about this time. And much to Tertius's delight, supposedly, they actually did know that China existed. Soft communist. So, yeah, no, it's a pretty cool map. I actually am really grateful for it. It's something to draw reference from. Maybe not so much the Book of Mormon crap, but everything else is it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. Taiwan #1. Actually, wait a second. Was Taiwan on that map? Hold on. Oh fuck! I gotta call it up again. Yeah, now you got me so curious about the tiny ass island. They actually did not know about Taiwan. Surprisingly enough, they did not know about Taiwan. Taiwan is not green. They knew about the Philippines. They did not know about Taiwan. Somehow that escaped their radar. Okay, so yeah, sorry, Turish. I love bursting people's bubbles. Anyway, I'm gonna take a real quick break. Catch up with chat before we head out onto the last section of the Bible, or chapter rather of the Bible that we want to cover here today. That being Genesis 11, which should, all caps, be a really short chapter. It is not because of P. He got his hands on this chapter and he was like, wait, you know what this story is missing? Genealogy. We're gonna skip past that point. We honestly are. It's a mess. But all the things that have to do with the Tower of Babel, guess what? We're gonna go right over that. But very quickly, let's go ahead and catch up with the chat. Aaron Kelly, really love this series. Thank you. Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for tuning in. I heart emoji to you as well. Jonathan Frost, hard to take the Bible seriously when modern culture has placed connotations on names like Gomer and Nimrod. Yeah, the thing is, like, especially about Nimrod, you know, like the connotation around Nimrod is like it's somebody who's like really stupid or incompetent in some way, shape, or form. Nimrod built a fucking tower that damn near almost made it all the way to heaven. I don't think that you can be an absolute, you know, brain in hand moron and coordinate a construction project like that, unless, you know, he was really just incredibly stupid and, you know, he was just kind of like a benefactor for the whole thing. Maybe, but like, again, none of that is pointed out in the Bible, and as I said, he isn't even mentioned by name once we get into Genesis chapter 11. Whew. Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Spoiler alert, I am not going to go through most of Genesis 11. Like I said, it really should only be about 9 passages long. God fucking damn it. Stop. No, stop. Oh my God, I hate this PDF. This is why we need to have OBS. Because the downloaded PDF that I have behaves itself so much better. The problem is, you know, when you view it through Acrobat Reader, it does get very messy. So I tend not to do that just for presentation's sake. Okay. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. So, there is a lot of speculation around the subject of what the original language was. Most rabbinic texts state that this was the so-called Adamic language, which was supposedly the language God spoke to Adam through, and likewise is the basis for all the names of the animals and Eve herself. There is one small problem with this theory, though. The Adamic language is remarkably similar to Hebrew as we understand it. As we've discussed in multiple points and in multiple different videos, Adam's name is based on the Hebrew word for earth, broadly, which is Adamas. And Eve's name in the Bible is actually Hawa, based on the word Heya, meaning to live, making it possible that her name is supposed to be taken as the source of life in relation to the fact that her unique quality was the fact that she had a womb and is technically the descendant of all humans. The issue I take here is that phonetically there are too many similarities between the Hebrew language in regards to both of these names. If Hebrew was merely supposed to be like an offshoot of an older, more encompassing language spoken by all peoples, meant to be separated into 72 distinct, unrecognizable dialects, then the original language should also be unrecognizable to those whose speech was confounded. Otherwise, these native speakers of the Adamic language should have been able to recognize the similarities to the new Hebrew language. And, from there, just kind of reverse engineer things. Or, everybody just learns to speak Hebrew. Thankfully, for the apologist in the audience who wants to pick this hill to die on specifically, 11.9 does include an added detail which could explain the discrepancy, but it still doesn't change the fact that Hebrew likely was meant to be the original language of the Jewish-centric book written in Old Hebrew. Nouns still not included. So, 11.2. And it came to pass, as they journeyed east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Going back to land of Shinar, it was mentioned before in Genesis 10, but I want to kind of expand a little bit on it now. This is likely a Western cognate of Sumer, which isn't too far-fetched as biblical references to this site place it in southern Mesopotamia. Obviously, Babel is in reference to Babylon, which, after the Canaanites were dealt with, would become the Old Testament's boogeyman. That's not to say that tensions between Israel and Babylon didn't exist before, but they were likely not quite as imploded as of yet. Essentially, they still had bigger fish to fry, as we're about to see in Genesis and later on in Exodus. Back to 11.3. And they said one to another, "Come, let us make brick, and then burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. I find slime to be such an awkward word to use here, especially when the author demonstrates a working knowledge on how bricks need to be baked in a kiln prior to their construction, or prior to their use in, constructing things, but is unsure of what material is exactly used for mortar. You see, slime to me personally sounds like something you would scrape off the bark of some tree in the middle of a swamp, even though clay had been used since like the 8th century in the walls of Jericho, ironically enough, and should have been fairly common knowledge by that point to anyone who would bother to ask. Of course, though, we're dealing with an author who claims to be separated from the events he is describing by roughly 4 millennia, and with a bit of confusion being added in with the Egyptians using a mixture of Nile mud and clay, then switching over to a more lime-based paste for later projects. I'm willing to give the ambiguity a pass here, but I really just hate the word slime. It just seems very unprofessional. And they said, "Come, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." Spoiler alert, 11.8 results with an ending with a throwaway line that I mentioned before, where Jehovah literally scatters the people of the earth around rather than having them all go their separate ways after confounding their language. So this illustrates that these people, at least the semantic ones, as per my theory on the Hebrew peoples being the only ones whose Genesis is adequately explored in, Genesis, knew that this was a probable outcome and chose to do it anyway, kind of as a "we were here" sign to survive throughout history, which of course it didn't. Now, the tower is thought to be based on an actual location in Babylon known as the Etemenaki. I need to make sure that I'm pronouncing that correctly, because I will have to say that a couple times. The Etemenaki, or Etemenanki. Fuck. Which essentially translates to the temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. While this claim may try to postulate that there are two fundamental differences between the Tower of Babel and the the thing. So one of those differences is that the ziggurat was constructed in honor of the god Marduk, not just because we can, though given that these were the descendants of Ham and thus heretical anyways, it follows that they would make a monument to an idolatrous god. And two, Etemenanki was almost certainly built with slave labor, not just a bunch of dudes sitting around saying, why not? So that's kind of where the contention falls into place here. However, assuming that the Etemenanki was actually the Tower of Babel, the ziggurat was actually destroyed in 689 BC, following the razing of the city by the Neo-Assyrian Empire. However, the city was rebuilt sometime during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II, possibly with the use of Jewish slaves. Possibly, big asterisk there. In any case, the tower actually stood up again up until 323 BC, and then Alexander the Great, who had previously ordered that the Etemenanki undergo repairs, noted that the work really hadn't been done, that any work really hadn't been done on a tower since he captured the city some 8 years earlier, and decided that it would just be best to demolish the whole structure and start again fresh. However, you might note that in 323 BC, Alexander died. And so the project was kind of caught up in bureaucratic hell for the next few centuries. And today, all that really exists is the foundation. Now, supposedly, this is a little bit more of a contentious historical record. About 50 years after Alexander died, Prince Antiochus of the Seleucid Empire tried to rebuild the Etemenanki, but got pissed off with it because he slipped on some rubble and around the construction sites, and so he ordered his war elephant to charge in and destroy the remains. This, like I said, is a much less substantiated account, so take it with a grain of salt. Oh, God. I'm wearing down my voice. 11:5. And Jehovah came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. I have another note. I find it a bit curious that God doesn't just know about the tower to begin with, otherwise he doesn't just whip out his holy spyglass or look down on it or some shit like that, but rather he physically has to go down to earth, probably in some sort of disguise like Odin, and ascertains the whole situation for himself. Now, I want all of you to just keep in mind that phrase, go down, because it's going to come up, well, literally like in like 2 passages. 11:6. And Jehovah said, behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is what they begin to do. And now nothing will be withholden from them, which they purpose to do. So, if the previous passage was strike one against God's supposed omniscience, and this line is a rather famous strike against his omnipotence, as it's pretty much universally recognized that Jehovah, perceiving the people of Babylon's ability to cooperate and their engineering as a threat to himself. As to whether this is in relation to their decadent lifestyle, resulting in them not needing to believe in God, which, keep in mind, this tale takes place in Babylon. They shouldn't believe in a monotheistic divinity anyway. Or they actually stand a chance against his divine power is kind of unclear. But the point stands that he feels the need to take action against the Babylonians for undertaking this project, as it stands as a testament to their insolence. And that is the main reason why action had to be taken. 11:7. Come, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. I have had a note every single line so far because this is actually interesting. And it would be short. Anyway, there's a lot to unpack in 11:7 alone. First of all, there's that dreaded us again, which I suppose you could knock to him referring to his angels, since at least the cherubim have been established by this point already. However, if you choose to view this with an air of practicality, as I do, you know that Judaism still has its polytheistic training wheels on, meaning that in that whole remention of let us go down, it becomes infinitely more interesting, as it implies two things. A, Jehovah couldn't just cause an earthquake or something while he was touring Babylon down on Earth, while he was, whenever he was done down there, which would have destroyed the tower, and then, he would have been able to confound the languages all by himself. Again, another strike against omnipotence. And B, he had to go back to heaven, possibly to meet with all the other Canaanite gods to plead his case, implying that he actually required permission to do what he did. The Bible is like ogres and onions. They have layers, boys and girls. Now, we can wave off the part about there being other gods with apologetics, and you're technically not incorrect, but you still have to acknowledge Jehovah waited to undergo some sort of action for some reason, and that's just in the most charitable interpretation. So, very interesting. I don't have much to say about 11:8 or 9, since we kind of already went over it. So Jehovah scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore, the name of it became Babel, because Jehovah did there confound the language of all of the earth. And from thence did Jehovah scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. This is where chapter 11 should end. However, you notice 11:10 picks up, where P comes to the rescue, needlessly extending yet another chapter, which could have comfortably been between 9 and maybe 8 passages long, since that last one was so repetitive. And he extends it all the way out to 32. So, forgive me for skipping through basically all of this until we get to Genesis 11:32, because there's nothing here that you need to know. Nothing at all. I have everything summarized uh, basically to what you boil down to what you need to know. However, I will read through 31 and 32, just, for added context. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur to the Chaldees, to go out into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran, and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Basically, I include that last one because it does help us place the time period a little bit better. Basically, what you need to know in all of those passages, summarized down and boiled to their most basic components, is that Abram is the great, 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 great grandson of Shem. Lot is his nephew. His wife can't conceive yet. They're in Ur as of right now. The names don't match up with the ones listed in Genesis 10, which is confusing, I know. But hey, we skipped over both of them, so that saves you a little bit of a headache. And assuming that Noah would have had Shem right about the same time that he built the ark, just taking the Christian sites at their face value, this would put us right about the year 2935 AC. Or, after creation. So we're almost 3,000 years old. And in fact, by the time we do get into Genesis 12, we do actually cross the threshold into 3,000 years old. So that's fun. But yeah, that's all we need to know before we move on to Genesis 12 in like a week or so. I don't know when I'm actually going to be able to stream again next. But hopefully sooner rather than later. I really do like to get these videos out somewhat quickly, especially considering that we are closing in on 5,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. And I would like to do it before the 5-year anniversary of this channel on June 17th. So obviously the best way to get to that point is to continuously release more and more content. And as of right now, this is like the fastest way that I know to do it. So hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully a lot of you will come back and watch the live stream after it's been uploaded onto YouTube, assuming that it gets to stay up on YouTube. And if anyone has any further questions on anything that we have covered today, go ahead and ask them right now. I'll give it a second for the stream to catch up with YouTube. But if there really aren't anything, then we'll wrap things up. So excuse me for one moment while I drink the rest of this tea so that I don't fucking die. Hello, Van AI Savage. I think that's your name. Hello. Yeah, we didn't have quite as much engagement as we did last time. It seems like Mondays are going to be like Mondays, or at the very least. No, actually, wait. We did that last one Saturday because that was on my birthday. So that's why we had higher retention for that stream. Yeah. Unfortunately, right now my work schedule is kind of fucky. So it looks like the next time we would possibly be able to stream would be next Tuesday, the 6th. Either that or Wednesday, the 7th. I really don't have a weekend off all the way up until the the 1st of July, really. Um, I do have a couple Fridays off, but I don't know if those would work any better or not. Just because I recognize that Friday is the best day of the week, not counting weekends, but people still do have to work on Friday. So, oh, this should be worth it though, because I believe I get paid tomorrow. Yay! Okay, I'm not seeing any questions rolling in, which is to be expected. If you are confused about anything, be sure to just leave a mention to whatever section you have a question on in the comments down below. I'll try to get around to all of your quandaries as I see them. But in any case, thank you all so very much for watching today's stream. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all possibly next Tuesday. But until then, folks, my name is Messiah's Mythology, and I hope you all have a God's blessed day.